Nightly Business Report.
Good evening. Tonight, Sri Lanka's biggest hotel opens doors as ITC RannDEA becomes India's newest venture on the island.
We have no doubt that this will lead to other hotels, groups from India also coming in here.
Electricity tariff bills arrives in Parliament amidst heavy criticism from electricity trade unions. Stocks continue to be in the green as investor confidence takes a positive shape. And Heineken manages to brew profits with rising global demand.
From Studio 24, here's Sina Mayadune.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. President Ranil Wickremesinghe inaugurated what is slated to be Sri Lanka's biggest hotel this morning. RannDEA, which means Island of Gems, is ITC's first hotel outside of India. President Wickremesinghe called the venture a result for the vision statement for better ties he signed with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Calling India a rising giant, he described the hotel as the first step towards greater economic cooperation between the two countries, starting with tourism.
I welcome ITC to Sri Lanka. Your RannDEA has come to the resplendent island. So, on this occasion, we are all pleased to be here at this moment when the ITC RannDEA has joined the golden mile of tourism. Here you have the first 5-star hotel in Asia. From there, the Golf Face. You have another of your colleagues from India, Taj. From Singapore, we have Shangri-La. And here, the tallest of them all is ITC.
India and Sri Lanka, of course, have very rich and long-standing relations, cultural, religious, linguistics, and of course, a growing economic relationships in trade and commerce. And I think, Excellency, under your leadership and Honorable Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi ji in India, I think this relationship has been taken to the next level and offers immense opportunities for both the economies to leverage complementarities and create greater value for the economy and the nations.
RannDEA is ITC's first international venture and it is expected that the hotel division will become an independent company next year. ITC RannDEA, situated on the Gold Sea Face, features 352 rooms and suites, sky mansions, 9 restaurants and bars, Sri Lanka's first sky bridge and a helipad. It's also facing the Indian Ocean. As of now, it seems to be Sri Lanka's biggest hotel, and this hotel joins the other Indian ventures in the country, like Taj properties in Colombo and Bentota. President Wickremesinghe further hoped that this venture would push more Indian investments coming towards Sri Lanka. Power and Energy Minister Kanchana Wijesekara presented the Sri Lanka Electricity Bill, which incorporates the proposed reforms for the electricity sector, to the Parliament today. The bill seeks to establish the National Electricity Advisory Council and make the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka the regulator of the electricity industry. The minister earlier said that this bill aims to provide more support to the business sector, especially SMEs. However, trade unions representing Sri Lanka's state-run Ceylon Electricity Board have threatened to defeat a new electricity reform bill even if it is passed in Parliament. Trade unions held a demonstration against the bill today near the Parliament complex. Parallel protests were also organised in Galle, Tangol and Hambantota. Meanwhile, speaking to the Nightly Business Report, the chairwoman of the Sri Lanka United National Business Alliance said that if the bill aims to support the SME industry, they will look at it positively.
With electricity and different benefits to SME sectors. But these benefits also should be included in any sort of agreement or any sort of policies that they will be making that will be beneficiary for the SMEs. Now, what is happening is in long termly, the government is never looking into the ability of trying to understand the SMEs. Up to date, they have never done that, and that is why we are planning and urging the president itself, whatever the decisions taken, should be beneficiary for the country itself. Privatizing is very easy, but if it's going to not benefit the country, then it is a huge problem. Today, the electricity has gone up by 300%. But by privatizing, if this can be balanced to a certain level where the SMEs also will benefit, we are for privatizing. We are not against any bad or good.
Japan has given a $3 million grant through the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations to boost inland fisheries and aquaculture in Sri Lanka as the country recovers from a currency crisis. The funds will establish 4 community-operated mini hatcheries in Batticaloa, Mulittu, Anuradhapura and Monaragala districts. The money will also upgrade 4 aquaculture development centers and 1 community-operated mini fish breeding center to increase breeding and rearing capacity, enhance fingerling stocks in selected reservoirs, develop brood stock for breeding units, and promote cage culture for seed rearing among fisher communities. The 1-year project will provide 3 live fish transportation trucks to transport fingerlings, integrate digital technology into inland fisheries, and enhance the technical capacities of fisher officers and fishers in the production management, processing, and value addition of inland fisheries. State Minister of Finance Ranjit Siyambalapitiya told Parliament today that the government will have to cough up 40 billion rupees more if the said interest rates promised to senior citizens are to take effect. In his statement to the Parliament today, the minister said that the Treasury would make a decision with great care.
While responding to a question raised by the opposition leader Sajith Premadasa, who have claimed that the current interest rates have gone down to around 8 or 9%, the State Minister of Finance responded that the government would have not fund such an initiative. He said that in order to bring the rates back to 15%, the government must allocate at least 40 billion rupees a year and will have to pay a previous year's too. Senior citizens 60 years or older with an annual income that does not exceed 1,200,000 rupees who have had AIT deducted from their interest income were eligible to apply for this refund.
A short break now. When we return, the latest from the Colombo Stock Exchange. This is the Nightly Business Report. Welcome back to the Nightly Business Report, and let's take you straight to the Colombo Stock Exchange, where the markets have managed to keep the upbeat trend. The all-share price index gained over 1% point during today's trading, while S&P SL20 gained closer to 3%. Turnover for the day was close to 3 billion rupees. Let's get a breakdown of the data of today's trading, and for that, let's go to Tarish Ashagar from First Capital, standing by with the details.
Thank you. So for the third consecutive day, the SPI maintained bullish sentiment, surging by 170 points and closing above the 12,000 mark, rebounding from earlier mid-month declines. So notably, investor activity focused on banking counters, with leading banks like Commercial Bank, Heritage National Bank and Sampath Bank emerging as top contributors to the today's gains. Also, blue chip counters such as John Keel's Holdings and LOLC Group also drove the SPI upwards today. So we can see the increasing number of trades signals growing investor optimism lifted by expectations of positive corporate results in the upcoming weeks. Also, the recent contraction in interest rates at the Treasury bill auction suggests a shift in investor sentiment towards alternative investment options. So there is a notable transition observed from fixed income to equity markets, highlighting investor preference for higher yield opportunities amidst improving economic conditions. Driven by active involvement from retail, high net worth and institutional investors, turnover improved to LKR 2.9 billion with significant contributions from the banking sector and food, beverage and tobacco sectors. Moving on, top gainers for the day include Blue Diamond's non-voting share, Nation Lanka Finance and UB Finance, while top losers for the day are Blue Diamond's voting share, Onali Holdings and Muller and Phipps Ceylon PLC.
Well, during the past few days, as we've seen, the stock market has managed to be in the green, while profits for companies have been on the upward trend. Will this momentum continue? We pose that question to Dimantha Matthews from First Capital Holdings.
So the stock market has been on a continuous uptrend from January onwards, with minor consolidations taking place in between. So what is the main reason for this significant uptrend? If you look at it on the interest rate front, we've seen a significant decline in interest rates. The interest rates that were above the 15% mark, or maybe even around the 20% mark about 6 to 8 months ago, have significantly declined, and as soon as the overall government securities yield curve dropped below the 13% mark, we've seen significant buying interest coming into the equity market. In addition to that, we've seen a transfer of funds from investors from fixed income to equity investments. This is as an alternative investment option. We've seen this trend happen in the past as well. As soon as interest rates significantly decline, investors look for alternative investment options and then switch to this equity market. So equity market is in a low interest rate environment a very positive option, simply because in a lower interest rate environment, economic activity picks up faster. In Sri Lanka currently we are possibly in a recovery process, and with this recovery we are likely to see growth in corporate earnings happening. Also there's going to be a significant decline in finance cost of most of these companies. So with the recovery and the corporate earnings increasing, we are seeing the all share price index re-rating in the market, and that is why we are seeing an uptrend, and to match that we are seeing a higher demand into equity investments.
Sri Lanka's Treasury bill yields dropped across maturities at yesterday's auction, with the 3-month yield falling below 10% to 9.90%. Data from the State Debt Office showed that the office sold 35 billion rupees of 3-month bills at 9.90%, down from 10.03%. 30 billion rupees per 6 months were sold at 10.08%, down from 10.22%. 27 billion rupees of 12-month bills were sold at 10.21%, down from 10.23%. All Treasury bills offered were sold. Gold prices fell in Asian trade today and were close to breaking below key levels as waning safe haven demand and the prospect of higher for longer U.S. interest rates batteried the yellow metal. Bullion prices were nursing a sharp drop from record highs over the past week as a potential conflict between Iran and Israel did not escalate as markets were fearing. Waning safe haven demand left gold vulnerable to headwinds from U.S. rates, given that higher for longer rates push up the opportunity cost of investing in bullion. Spot gold fell 0.1% to $2,313.62 an ounce, while gold futures expiring in June fell 0.6% to $2,325.05 an ounce. Oil prices steadied today after settling lower the previous day. Signs of retreating fuel demand in the U.S., the world's biggest oil user, contended with widening conflict risks in the key Middle East producing region. Brent crude futures inched up 18 cents or 0.2% to $88.20 a barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures gained 13 cents or 0.2% to $82.94. Data from the U.S. Energy Information Administration showed that gasoline stockpiles fell less than forecast, while distillate stockpiles rose against expectations of a decline, reflecting signs of slowing demand. The falling fuel demand is occurring amid signs of cooling U.S. business activity in April. Stronger than expected inflation and employment data means the U.S. Federal Reserve is more likely to delay expected interest rate cuts, weighing on economic sentiment. The Sri Lankan rupee has appreciated further against the US dollar at commercial banks in Sri Lanka today compared to yesterday's rates. At Sampath Bank, the buying and selling rates of the US dollar have dropped from 294 rupees to 293 rupees and 40 cents and from 303 rupees to 302 rupees and 50 cents respectively. The central bank, meanwhile, put the buying rate of the US dollar at 292 rupees and 70 cents and the selling rate at 302 rupees and 58 cents. Now here's a look at how the rupee fared against other currencies during the day today. Let's take a short break, and when we return, the latest from the corporate world. This is the Nightly Business Report. Welcome back to the Nightly Business Report. The Ceylon Chamber of Commerce proudly presents the inaugural Sri Lanka Climate Summit 2024 themed Code Red, Climate Risk and Opportunities for Sri Lankan Businesses from May 7th to the 9th at the Shangri-La Hotel in Colombo.
An introductory press conference for the summit was held yesterday at the auditorium of Chamber of Commerce. As scientists warn for the potentially devastating consequences of accelerating climate change, the summit will serve as a platform for a national dialogue on the impending risks of climate change and the opportunities presented to Sri Lankan businesses. As the chief guest, President Ranil Wickremesinghe will address the summit's inauguration, setting the context for deliberations and discussions that will follow. This summit brings together all stakeholders to create a dialogue that will help the development of climate action plan.
An Indian company named Proclime Services Private Limited, a startup focused on the climate sector, aims to invest about $150 million in carbon projects across sectors in India and Sri Lanka over the next 12 to 18 months. The Chennai-headquartered company intends to unveil at least 3 carbon projects monthly until September in both countries. Proclime has identified 18 sectors for the development of carbon projects in India and Sri Lanka.
Kavin Kumar Kandasamy, CEO of Proclime, said in a statement that the company secured a $150 million fund from various investors worldwide. The funds are expected to be deployed towards carbon projects this month, announcing 3 projects per month. These projects span nature conservation, sustainable agriculture, and biodiversity, among others. The second area is carbon trading, where Proclime helps non-climate companies offset their emissions by buying carbon credits from climate firms.
Kurunegala has become the latest location to receive the SEAT premium retail experience with the opening of a new concept shop-in-shop outlet in this busy northwestern metropolis by SEAT Kalani Holdings. The 7th SEAT SIS outlet to be opened in Sri Lanka. The new outlet is located at Rohana Enterprises, Kurunegala. Part of a 3-year distribution channel expansion strategy by Sri Lanka's most used tyre brand, the SEAT shop-in-shop concept is designed to drive brand premiumization and enhance customer experience. The new branch of PMF Finance has opened its doors in Narayanpeta, offering a wide range of services for vehicle financing.
The opening of this new branch not only expands PMF Finance's reach but also marks a milestone in initiating a new leasing option named Guardian Leasing. This leasing method offers customers to purchase used vehicles with the issuance of a quality certificate. The quality certificate will be valid for 2 years for main vehicle body parts with low interest rates on the other side. The occasion was graced with senior officials of PMF Finance.
Prime Land Residences PLC, Sri Lanka's leading real estate developer, achieved a significant milestone with the groundbreaking ceremony of the Columbo Border, a landmark project poised to redefine urban living. With Phase 1 of the project nearly sold out, the company is now launching Phase 2, coinciding with the commencement of construction. Piling work has been undertaken by Sandpiling, a reputed name in the construction industry, signifying the project's steady progress towards completion. SLT Mobitel, together with Lovi Sarongs, hosted an exclusive business network fellowship for its loyalty customers, fostering business prospects for members and partners of the loyalty community. The event, which took place at the Lovi outlet in the Goldface Hotel, exemplified the untiring dedication of SLT Mobitel in providing exclusive premier experiences to the members of the SLT Mobitel loyalty community. The event not only highlighted the myriad of opportunities ushered by SLT Mobitel, but also showcased the strength of its network and the intrinsic connectivity it brings in connecting loyalty customers with premier partners such as Lovi Sarongs in offering exclusive products and services. What's happening around the world in business? Find out when we return after this break. This is the Nightly Business Report. Welcome back to the Nightly Business Report. The Philippine peso and South Korean won led losses today among subdued Asian emerging currencies, while stock markets in the region fell after disappointing earning forecasts from the Facebook parent Meta platforms hammered tech shares. South Korean stocks fell 1.8%, whereas shares in Taiwan lost 1.4%. Both gained more than 2% in the previous session. Singapore stocks were as much as 1.3% lower, while Indonesian shares fell by 0.6%. Stocks in Malaysia remained largely unchanged after data showed that the country's consumer price index rose by 1.8% from a year earlier in March, just below the predicted 2% rise. As you saw, the markets in Asia took a turn due to the US stocks being mostly lower in yesterday's trading, as brokers prepared for the release of the first quarter GDP data and digested the latest round of corporate earnings. Investors are waiting on advance estimates for first quarter GDP to roll out later today, which will give markets a sense of how strong the economy is growing and point to the Federal Reserve's next move.
A choppy trading day ended with stocks little changed on Wednesday amid mixed earnings reports from technology giants. The Dow dipped about 0.1%, the S&P 500 ended essentially flat but in the green, and the Nasdaq gained 0.1%. Shares of Meta platforms, down 0.5% at the close, plunged more than 12% in after-hours trading despite beating first-quarter revenue estimates. Investors appeared less pleased with the tech giant saying its capital expenditure could reach up to $40 billion in 2024. Tesla shares jumped 12% after the electric vehicle maker's plans to boost production and roll out more affordable models overshadowed Tuesday's weak quarterly results. Microsoft and Alphabet are scheduled to report their results later this week. In other company news, shares of Boeing fell nearly 3% after the plane maker reported its first quarterly revenue drop in 7 quarters, even though the result beat analyst expectations. Texas Instruments climbed more than 5.5% after the chipmaker forecast second-quarter revenue above analyst estimates. And Hasbro shares rose nearly 12% after the toy maker reported a smaller-than-expected drop in first-quarter sales and handily beat profit estimates.
The Dutch brewers sold more beer in Q1 compared with the same time last year, with sales of premium brands doing particularly well. Heineken, the world's second largest brewer, has beaten expectations by selling 4.7% more beer in the first 3 months of 2024 compared with this quarter in 2023.
Heineken sold more beer than expected in the first quarter. It reported a year-on-year growth in Q1 of 4.7%, sticking to its forecast for the year. The world's second largest brewer said the amount that beer volumes rose was almost double analysts' expectations. Its shares increased as much as 1.6% in early trading and have since dropped marginally. Heineken is focused on restoring volume growth this year, which was hurt in 2023 as it hiked its prices to offset the all-round rising costs from energy to barley. The company's CEO said that all regions posted higher volume and net revenue. He added that the quarter was helped by an early Easter and one-off effects. In February, Heineken disappointed investors with a cautious growth forecast, saying it could be anywhere between a low and high single-digit percentage this year. That was due to uncertainty around important markets Nigeria and Vietnam. But volume rose almost 20% in Nigeria and in the low teens for Vietnam. Still, the brewer said it continued to see the economic environment as, quote, challenging and uncertain, and it couldn't extrapolate the reported top-line growth to the rest of the year.
Make sure you get in touch with us via business@derana.lk. Well, that will do for tonight's edition of the Nightly Business Report. Thank you so much for staying with us. I'm Sina Mayadune. Good night.